In 1963, İlhan Durupinar, a Turkish Air Force pilot, was on a reconnaissance mission in the east of the country when his instruments detected something astonishing. From the air, he observed a geometric anomaly, a perfectly formed stone structure buried under centuries of sediment. Military authorities recorded the coordinates and kept the find under wraps for 3 decades. What Durupinar spotted was not just an ordinary archaeological site. It was the entrance to a vast tunnel system spanning 5 continents. An ancient map, drawn by the Sumerians more than 5,000 years ago, illustrated the interconnectedness of these tunnels. The mainstream archaeological community has spent years ignoring this discovery. Yet the evidence isn't hidden away in some secret location. It's carved in stone and has been in plain sight all this time. Everything you've been taught about human history is based on falsehoods. We are told that civilization began around 3500 BC in Mesopotamia, implying that before that humans were primitive. That technological advancement was slow and gradual. That ancient civilizations had no contact between continents. Every single one of these claims is demonstrably false, and the tunnel map is irrefutable proof that disproves it all. If you're watching this, subscribe right now. This channel covers the forbidden history they don't want you to discover. Every week I bring you the evidence the establishment reveals. Don't miss what's coming next. The Sumerian civilization appeared around 4500 BC in what is now southern Iraq. They had no evolutionary predecessors. One day they were scattered hunter-gatherers. The next day, boom, advanced mathematics, astronomy, a written language more sophisticated than any that would exist for the next 2,000 years. They presented a complete mathematical, musical system based on the number 60. 60 minutes in an hour. They divided the circle into 360 degrees. They calculated the exact length of a lunar month with fractional second accuracy. They knew the Earth was round and rotated on its axis thousands of years before Galileo supposedly discovered it. The cuneiform tablets they left behind describe their origins in great detail. They did not evolve on Earth. They were instructed by beings they called the Anunnaki, beings who came from the sky. Modern scholars dismiss this as mythology, creation stories, primitive explanations of natural phenomena. But the Sumerians did not write in metaphors. They wrote technical manuals. Their tablets contained mathematical formulas for calculating planetary orbits, formulas we didn't discover independently until the 19th century. They knew of Pluto's existence. They knew the exact number of planets in our solar system. They had a detailed understanding of the formation of our solar system that coincides with discoveries made by NASA in the last 50 years. These were not primitive people making random guesses. They were recording information that had been passed on to them by someone who already knew it. Modern scholars dismiss this as mythology, creation stories, or primitive explanations of natural phenomena. But the Sumerians didn't write in metaphors. They wrote technical manuals. Their tablets contained mathematical formulas for calculating planetary orbits, formulas we didn't discover independently until the 19th century. They knew of Pluto's existence. They knew the exact number of planets in our solar system. They had a detailed understanding of the formation of our solar system that coincides with discoveries made by NASA in the last 50 years. These weren't primitive people making random guesses. They were recording information given to them by someone who already knew it. The Anunnaki, according to Sumerian texts, arrived on Earth approximately 450,000 years ago. Their home planet, Nibiru, was dying. They needed gold to repair its atmosphere. Earth had gold, but most of it was deep underground, so they created a workforce. The tablets describe how the Anunnaki took existing hominids and improved them. They mixed their own genetic material with ours. The tablets describe the process in terms that sound eerily similar to modern genetic engineering: extracting essence, combining materials, creating vessels for new beings. The result was us, Homo sapiens, created to extract gold. Modern geneticists have a problem they don't talk about. Human DNA contains around 223 genes that have no predecessors in the evolutionary tree. They appear to have been inserted. Francis Crick, who discovered the structure of DNA, publicly stated that human DNA was too complex to have evolved naturally in the time frame we've been given. He suggested it might have been engineered. He was ridiculed, but he never backed down. And to extract that gold efficiently, they needed infrastructure. They needed tunnels. This is where the cave map comes in. In 1972, a team explored the Taos Caves in Ecuador. The expedition included former astronaut Neil Armstrong. Yes, that Neil Armstrong. The first man on the moon decided to dedicate his time to investigating ancient tunnels. Think about it. A man with access to classified NASA information chose to explore a cave system in Ecuador. It's no coincidence. The walls were covered in precisely carved geometric symbols. Not simple scratches, but straight laser-like lines forming intricate patterns. The expedition documented more than 400 stone tablets and metal plates. Among them was a map, a detailed topographic map showing the entire planet. But it wasn't just any map. It depicted a network of underground tunnels connecting 5 continents: South America, North America, Europe, Africa, and Asia. The symbols matched Sumerian cuneiform writing, the same writing system used in Mesopotamia more than 5,000 years ago. However, these engravings were found on the opposite side of the planet, in a cave system that supposedly had no connection to Mesopotamian culture. Local indigenous tribes claimed that the caves were created by the gods before the Great Flood and that the tunnels ran entirely through the earth. Armstrong documented everything with the precision of a NASA expert. Upon returning to the United States, he gave an interview about the expedition. He described the artifacts as far exceeding anything he had expected to find. Afterward, he fell silent. For the rest of his life, he refused to speak about Taos. He turned away all researchers who approached him. What did he see down there that made a man who walked on the moon refuse to speak of a cave? How did Sumerian writing end up engraved in a cave in Ecuador thousands of years before any known contact between these civilizations? The most widely accepted explanation is that it was a coincidence, an independent invention, where different cultures developed similar symbols by accident. But the symbols are not only similar, they are identical, down to the angular accuracy, down to the mathematical proportions implicit in the spacing, and the map itself is even more problematic. The continents are shown in their correct positions, not in those they appear in a standard Mercator projection. The actual positions take into account the curvature of the Earth. The Sumerians were supposed to have been unaware of what the continents looked like from above. They had no satellites. They had no airplanes. They didn't even have hot air balloons unless someone showed them. The map doesn't just show land masses. It shows changes in elevation, mountain ranges, coastlines, details that would require aerial surveys or satellite imagery. The tunnel routes connect specific geological features: old mines, volcanic regions, and mineral deposits. This is not a random network, but a carefully planned extraction and transport system. The tunnels depicted on this map are not theoretical. They have been discovered. In 1965, Father Carlo Crespi collected thousands of metal plates and artifacts from indigenous tribes in Ecuador. These plaques contain the same symbols and maps. Some had inscriptions describing vast underground chambers used by ancient gods for travel. Analyzing the metallic composition of these plaques, researchers discovered something impossible. The alloy matched none known from pre-Columbian South America. It was a mixture of gold, copper, and trace elements that required smelting techniques far superior to those possessed by the indigenous peoples. Some plates showed no oxidation whatsoever, despite supposedly being thousands of years old. Crespi donated his entire collection to the Vatican. The Vatican accepted it, cataloged it, and locked it away in its secret archives. It has never been publicly displayed. When researchers inquired why, Vatican officials claimed the artifacts required further study. That was in 1965. Nearly 60 years have passed. There are still no studies. There is still no public access. What are they hiding? The tunnel system itself has been partially explored. In Turkey, the underground city of Derinkuyu is officially recognized as an ancient subterranean complex capable of housing 20,000 people. It descends to 11 levels and connects to other underground cities through kilometers of tunnels. Mainstream archaeologists claim it was built as a refuge during invasions. But the engineering required to excavate this complex in solid rock with Bronze Age tools is absurd. The ventilation shafts alone would have required knowledge of airflow dynamics that didn't officially exist until the Renaissance. These wells descend more than 60 meters and provide fresh air to each level. The airflow is calibrated with such precision that the temperature and humidity remain constant year-round. The complex has running water. It features wells connected to underground aquifers through precision engineering. There are storerooms with stone shelves carved at exact angles. There are meeting rooms with acoustic properties that amplify sound. This wasn't a panic room. It was designed by people with a deep understanding of physics, geology, and architecture. And Derinkuyu isn't an isolated case. At least 36 other similar musical complexes have been discovered in the same region. They are all connected and excavated with the same precision. Some tunnels are wide enough for a truck to pass through. Ground-penetrating radar studies conducted in the 1990s showed that the tunnels extended westward toward Europe, eastward toward Asia, and southward toward Africa. The Turkish government kept the full results of these studies secret. In 2017, a construction crew in Romania accidentally discovered an unexplored tunnel while building the Bucharest metro. The tunnel was enormous, 4.5 meters in diameter and perfectly cylindrical. The walls were smooth, shiny, and made of polished stone, with no tool marks. The workers reported that the air inside was fresh, not stale or musty, as if it were being ventilated from somewhere. The temperature remained constant at 20 degrees C. The Romanian government immediately sealed the entrance and catalogued all the documents. However, before the sealing, workers reported seeing carved symbols near the entrance, which they photographed with their phones. When these photos were posted online, researchers immediately identified them as Sumerian cuneiform, writing in a previously unknown underground tunnel in Bucharest. Then there's Antarctica. In 2001, researchers using ice-penetrating sonar discovered enormous cavities beneath the ice sheet. Not natural caverns, geometric structures, tunnels. The sonar revealed perfectly straight passages extending for kilometers under ice, more than 3 kilometers thick. Dr. Michael Salla published the findings. In less than 48 hours, the journal retracted the article. Salla lost his funding. His academic credentials were questioned. But he went public with his claims that governments had known about these tunnels since the 1950s. He pointed to Operation High Jump, a 1946 U.S. military expedition to Antarctica with 4,700 men and 13 ships. It was the largest Antarctic expedition in history. It lasted only 8 weeks instead of the planned 8 months. Admiral Richard Byrd gave a bizarre interview afterward in which he claimed they had discovered resources and potential threats that would require U.S. attention for years to come. When asked what kind of threats, he remained silent. In 1959, 12 nations signed the Antarctic Treaty, which prohibited military activity. On the surface, it appears to be international cooperation. But what if it was containment? An agreement to keep people away from something they had all discovered independently. Salla's academic career was destroyed, but his data was never refuted. It was simply buried. The system wants us to believe that primitive humans barely survived, that they spent their time hunting mammoths and painting on cave walls, that the idea of a global network of tunnels is absurd, but the evidence doesn't support that narrative. The evidence supports something far more unsettling, that an advanced civilization existed on Earth long before recorded history. They possessed technology that we still don't fully understand, and they left behind an infrastructure that we are only now beginning to rediscover. Sumerian texts describe the Anunnaki creating a network of transportation systems to move materials and personnel between mining operations. They describe underground facilities where genetic experiments were conducted. They describe portals that allowed instantaneous travel between distant places. Mainstream academics read these descriptions and dismiss them as fantasy, science fiction written by people who didn't understand science. But what if they weren't fantasies? What if they were operational manuals? In Peru, the Inca fortress of Sacsayhuaman contains stone blocks weighing over 200 tons, fitted together with such precision that a sheet of paper cannot be slipped between them, without mortar or adhesive. The Incas had no writing, no wheeled vehicles, and no iron tools. Yet somehow they extracted, transported, and assembled these megalithic blocks with a precision that modern engineers struggle to replicate. Each stone is uniquely shaped. No two blocks are alike. They interlock like pieces of a three-dimensional puzzle, with complex curves and angles that would require computer modeling to design today. Moving a 200-ton block is difficult enough. Cutting it to fit perfectly with the others requires technology that we didn't officially possess until the 20th century. Local legends tell of ancient gods softening the rock with sound, using vibrations to shape it like clay. Mainstream archaeologists dismiss this as primitive superstition. Acoustic levitation is a real phenomenon. We can use sound waves to manipulate and move objects without touching them. But what if the Incas didn't invent it? What if they were describing the technology they witnessed? Beneath Sacsayhuaman lie tunnels. The Peruvian government has sealed most of them. In the 1920s, before the ban, explorers documented tunnel systems extending for kilometers under the fortress. They found chambers filled with metal plates and maps, including maps showing the same network of tunnels described in the Taos caves. They found sections where the rock showed evidence of extreme heat, melting, and subsequent reformation. The same polished stone has been reported in Romania, and the same construction technique appears in Derinkuyu. In one chamber, they found a metal door, not bronze or iron, but a silvery metal that didn't corrode. The door was sealed and covered with symbols, Sumerian cuneiform writing. The Peruvian government closed all access. They built a permanent military garrison at Sacsayhuaman. Researchers who attempt to access the tunnels are arrested. Armed soldiers are not needed to protect cultural heritage. They are needed when it comes to guarding something you don't want the world to see. In 2013, a whistleblower claiming to have worked on classified military projects released documents describing a global tunnel system discovered during deep geological surveys. The tunnels were engineered to perfection. Radiometric dating suggested that some sections were over 10,000 years old, far older than any officially recognized human civilization. The documents described entire complexes beneath Antarctica, the Sahara Desert, and the ocean floor. Some of these complexes were still operational, equipment was running and lights were on. Technology that far surpassed anything our armed forces could replicate. The documents included photographs, images of tunnel walls with the same polished, shiny surface found in Romania and Turkey, and images of symbols carved in stone, Sumerian cuneiform writing. The informant was arrested in less than 72 hours. The documents were removed from the internet. All the media outlets retracted their articles within 48 hours. But archival copies still exist, and the details in those documents perfectly match the map of the Sumerian cave. The same tunnel routes, the same points of convergence. The question isn't whether these tunnels exist. The question is, who built them? And why are governments so desperate to keep them secret? One theory is that the tunnels are still active, that they are being used. In the 1990s, reports surfaced from people living near Dulce, New Mexico, who claimed to have seen military convoys entering and exiting a plateau in the middle of the desert. There were no roads leading to the plateau, nor any visible structures, but locals reported hearing mechanical noises coming from underground, vibrations, buzzing. Some described it as a rhythmic pulse that made their windows vibrate. One rancher reported finding a metal hatch embedded in a rock on his property. It was smooth, with no visible hinges or handles. When he reported it to the police, federal agents arrived. They told him he had trespassed on government property. In less than a month, that section of his ranch had been reclassified as federal land. When researchers tried to investigate, they encountered armed security and unmarked private contractors. The area around Dulce is now restricted airspace. The plateau itself is surrounded by motion sensors and surveillance equipment. What's down there? And why does it need that level of protection? Sumerian tablets describe the Anunnaki maintaining underground bases long after their departure. They describe abandoned devices, technology in a state of hibernation, and portals sealed but not destroyed. The tablets state that when humanity reaches a certain level of development, these portals will reopen. Have we reached that point yet? Have we already opened them? In 1996, a massive explosion occurred deep within the Earth, near the border between Russia and China. Seismographs recorded it as a magnitude 6.2 event, but it wasn't an earthquake. The waveform was incorrect. Earthquakes produce a specific pattern. This didn't match. It was a sharp, single pulse, like an explosion. The epicenter was at a depth of almost 30 miles. No mining operation reaches that depth. The Chinese government called it a mining accident. Russia said nothing, but there are no mines in that region. The area is remote, mountainous, and devoid of industrial activity. Independent researchers analyzing the seismic data discovered something unsettling. The explosion was not an isolated event. In the hours before and after the main event, dozens of smaller rhythmic pulses were recorded, evenly spaced, almost as if something were trying to emerge from below. The Sumerian map of the Taos Caves shows convergence points where several tunnels intersect. One of these points lies directly beneath the border between Russia and China, the exact location of the 1996 incident. It's not an approximation, it's a coincidence. Coincidence? Or were they trying to access something? The evidence is everywhere if you're willing to look. Ancient texts describe advanced technology, tunnel systems excavated with a precision we can barely replicate today, governments that obstruct discoveries and silence researchers, a global pattern spanning continents and cultures, all point to the same conclusion. We are not the first advanced civilization on this planet. We're simply the first ones arrogant enough to believe it. This pattern repeats itself everywhere someone tries to explore these tunnels. Permission granted, then revoked. Funding approved, then cut. Researchers who get too close disappear, are discredited, or arrested on convenient charges. It doesn't matter the country. It doesn't matter which government is in power. The response is always the same. Close it down. Classify it. Make it disappear. The Sumerians knew this. They documented it. They carved it in stone and hid it in places they knew would survive. The map in the Taos cave wasn't for them. It was for us. A message from the past. A warning, or perhaps an invitation. The tunnels are real. The map is real. And somewhere deep beneath our feet, the infrastructure of a lost world still awaits. The question is, are we ready to find it? Or will we continue to pretend it doesn't exist because the truth is too terrifying to accept? What awaits us down there? The Sumerian tablets offer clues. They describe vast chambers filled with crystalline technology, power sources that draw energy from the earth itself, libraries containing the complete history of the Anunnaki's stay on Earth, genetic laboratories where humans were created, and, most disturbing of all, stasis chambers where some of the Anunnaki chose to remain, waiting. The tablets say that these beings were put into suspended animation until humanity reached a certain level of technological development. a level at which we could once again be of use to them, or a level at which we could finally understand what they left behind. We have reached that level. We have nuclear weapons. We have genetic engineering, artificial intelligence, and space programs that can take us beyond our atmosphere. These technologies, according to the ancient tablets, should indicate our readiness. However, it was during this same period that repression became more severe, specifically in the 1940s. This was right after we succeeded in splitting the atom and demonstrated our ability to create weapons of mass destruction. It was in this context that Operation Highjump was carried out in Antarctica. Governments began classifying findings related to tunnels, and, curiously, researchers began to disappear. What if the Anunnaki activated certain mechanisms? What if our technological advancements are sending signals through these tunnels? What if someone or something has been observing our progress, waiting for us to reach a point where we can serve them again, or for us to self-destruct by trying to access what they left behind? Most people who watch this video will feel a momentary chill and return to their everyday lives. They will see it as an interesting theory or a curious anecdote. But you are not like most people. If you've made it this far, it's because you're looking for answers. You're no longer satisfied with the simplified version of history they teach us in schools. I invite you to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next videos. See you soon.